Yes, rods.
Yeah, rods.
What is that, 30?
Rods and
That's what I'm told.
rods.
I wasn't
16 and a half.
Oh, well, my dad was born in 1906.
There you go.
I'll call the meeting in the McHenry County Zoning Board of Appeals to order. The purpose for our hearing today is application Z250088. The applicant is NP Solar Farm LLC. The request is for a conditional use permit to allow for a commercial solar energy facility. The PIN associated with this application is 16212000001. The property consists of approximately 30 acres and is located on the north side of Anthony Road, approximately 1/2 mile east of Interstate 90 in Riley Township, Illinois. At this time, I'll have the members of the Zoning Board of Appeals introduce themselves and the township in which they reside, starting on my left. Mr. Cozen.
Thank you. Robert Cozen, Algonquin Township.
Mary Donner, Greenwood Township.
Charlie Eldridge, Richmond Township.
I'm Linnea Kustra in Alden Township.
Kurt Schnabel, Riley Township.
Hey, I'm
I'm
here.
sorry, I jumped over
I'm Vicki Gartner from Nunda Township.
you. And I will be next at Riley Township.
Dwayne Dahlman, Seneca Township.
This petition has been reviewed and the following items have been received prior to today's scheduled hearing. Publisher's certificate of publication from a newspaper is dated February 10, 2026, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. Affidavit of posting was signed and the date posted was February 13, 2026, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. Affidavit of mailing was signed and the date mailed was February 6, 2026, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. The survey has been checked against the petition, legal notice, and publication in the newspaper, and all three match. The filing fees have been paid, and the endangered species consultation has been received. The McHenry County Soil and Water Conservation District report has also been received. This would be NRI 260044787. For those of you who have never attended a zoning hearing before, this is a quasi-judicial hearing. Rules of testimony apply. So anyone who's giving testimony, whether they're a member of the public, whether you're asking a question, or the petitioners themselves or the staff, will have to be sworn in. How the hearing proceeds is the petitioner presents their testimony why they believe the solar farm should be approved. And then they will be asked questions by the members of the board and also the staff. And then if any member of the public, if you have a question regarding their testimony, this is not a time for you to make your comments, but if you have a question regarding their testimony, you'll be given 3 minutes. I'll ask you to come up, you'll state your name and your address, and then I'll use the timer on my phone to give you your 3 minutes. If you want to use the whole 3 minutes to ask the questions and then they can answer them, that's fine. But you yourself to ask questions only get 3 minutes. Then after the testimony portion is all done, we'll get the report from staff. At that time, if any member of the public has a comment that you would like to make regarding this petition, you will given a second opportunity to make that comment. Again, you'll do the same thing. You come up here, state your name and address, and then give us whatever comments. Again, you'll have 3 minutes to do that. So at this time, anyone who thinks that they'll be testifying, whether it's asking a question or giving a statement, I would want to swear you in. So I would ask you to raise your right hand. Do you affirm that the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, we're going to turn it over to the petitioner. Please identify yourself. This meeting is being recorded. And for any member of the public, we don't have mics in this room. If you have trouble hearing, please move up as close as you can so that you can hear the testimony of the petitioner and also our question. So please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Everton Walters, president of WCP Solar, and we are the engineering consultants for this project. All right. So we have with me
Joseph Hines, we're with Gerald Hines and Associates. We're the civil engineering firm on the project.
Okay. I would like to go through a presentation if you don't mind.
Sure, we'd love it.
You can see that. All right. Just a little bit about my company. We are a full-fledged engineering firm. We do the engineering, design, and construction, including procurement of materials necessary. We are a project developer. We are an approved IPA vendor. We do job training. We are a community coordinator. In fact, we built the first community solar project in the state of Illinois, and our project was actually used as a benchmark to develop other community solar projects within the state. We are probably one of the oldest solar company locally in the state. We started in 2007, which is a long time ago. We celebrate our 90th anniversary on Friday, so that is awesome. We do O&M as well, so anything that's required in the project, we do. Myself, I've been in solar since 1982, which is a long time. So I'm probably the foremost expert as far as what goes on with solar and what's involved with solar in the state right now. That's another summation of what we have. We have a full cadre of engineers. We have PEs. We have Joe here as our civil engineer, but we have another civil engineer we work with. We have NABCEP and trained engineers, and we have certified master electricians on our staff. Just to give us some simple sample projects that we have done in recent times, we have done over 30 megawatts of solar within the state, right? But these are some simple projects that we have done here. I want to give as much time as possible for questions afterwards. This is just one of the projects in Lombard. This is a ground mount in the city of Plano, which is one of the first solar projects for the water treatment facilities in the state. This is the same Plano project. We have the Quad City International Airport that we also provide a service for installing a system for that site. That site has both a ground mount, carport mounted, and a roof mount system as well, right? We built a carport mounted using CDTE panels. It's a glass panel in Springfield, and this is another major project in the city of Plainfield, sorry. Now, this particular project that we're working with is supposed to be a 10 megawatt solar farm on a 29.66 acres of property. This property has been reviewed extensively, and we're satisfied that the development that we have will meet all the requirements of the county in regard to what is required for having a successful solar project in this site. We have several comments that we have reviewed and I've tried to address in the statements that are put in your hands. We have done an EcoCat, and whereas EcoCat was developed, it had certain concerns that we have gone through and tried to make sure we address. For instance, that the site should be decompacted prior to planting, which we have committed ourselves to do. This pollinator guidelines we are following, that we did develop a full landscaping plan detail that we submitted with the proposal. As far as mindfulness is concerned, we intend to hire a biologist to help us with the mitigation or management of the site. The fence that is to be developed, we have a guideline for fencing, and we have had some concerns about some of the fencing that you guys want us to, agricultural fencing type. We will want to discuss that somehow, because we think it's a little more expensive than necessary, but if you insist on doing that, we will do that, but just concerned about that. And of course, we have very limited trees to be removed, and that window is November 1st to March 31st, based on what the EcoCat guidelines have dictated to us. We have a full landscaping plan, as I said before, not just the drawings as it is, but we also have a full literature development that we have submitted for landscaping, which you should have in your portfolio. One of the things that we're going to be doing, just to make sure the point is this one now. Oh, the pointer. Okay, we'll be installing some juniper trees along. Some juniper trees along the sides of the site, 500 feet from the roadway, from the right of way, and along here, just as a screening mechanism, as it were, right? Which is what was required by the EcoCat. and your guidelines as well. The seed mix, the details are in your portfolio, so you can see that is kind of difficult to see on the screen, but you have it in your literature, so you can see the portfolio according as far as what the seed mix that we are looking for, and it's all native planting that we're looking for in this application. We did do an IA and IMA plan as well, which suggests that if there are drain tiles, as far as we've been informed that there are no drain tiles in the site, but we will do a drain tile study regardless, just because we have done that for a previous other site as well, just to make sure we have covered everything. And if there are drain tiles, we'll follow the windowing procedures and whatever is necessary to maintain the drain tiles in the site. But as far as we know, there are no drain tiles in this location. The site is sufficiently level, so there's no need for grading at this time, and we don't see a need for grading at all. And we'd like to, if we're possible, for maintaining the site, use agrovoltaics, using the sheep herding and goat herding on the site to help with maintaining. Of course, if that doesn't work, we'll do a regular mowing, as usual, to make sure that the grass or the prairie planting doesn't exceed the height that we require to maintain. There will be a decommissioning plan associated with this project, and the standard process that you guys have, we will follow that. And the lifetime of the project is approximately 25 to 35 years. It can go to 40 years, but we'll determine that based on the production of the system, how it behaves accordingly. But the commissioning bond will be maintained throughout the life of the project and will be used to ensure that the decommissioning of the system is done properly. We may, since the project is actually owned by the property, by the developer, they may choose to update the system at a later date to bring it, to extend the life of the system beyond 30 years, depending on, that's their decision. There's 30 years from now, I don't know if I'll be alive then, but we'll see what they do, all right? Because it's a full revenue generating system, so they'll decide exactly how they produce that. And of course, for the decommissioning plan, there's removal of all the gravels that are there, removal of the foundation, removal of the fencing, or whatever is necessary to make sure that we return the property to its original state. And the bond will be there to assure that that is done. As far as the materials is concerned, we're using solar panels. We're looking at the ZN Shine panels as the first option, but there's also Canadian Solar, or there's some other products from Turkey. It depends on what is available at the time when we're actually doing the construction, because material changes, and with all these tariff issues that's going on, we don't know exactly what's going to be available at the time when we're ready to order. So we're looking at some options. But the initial design is for a 650-watt solar panel, which is here, as it were. We're looking at 14,000 of these panels to be installed on the site, as if it was a 10.13 megawatt system. We will have, in this case, 2 central inverters, and these inverters will be mounted on, I think it was 6 or 8 pylons in the ground. So if one sitting on the ground, it will be a little bit above the ground, sitting on pylons, as it were. It's a self-contained inverter that actually does inversion as well as the transformation. So it's a transformer included in that. And ComEd is requiring us a 12.4 kV line, and that's what they're going to supply us with. So we'll have that transformation done accordingly. As far as the racking is concerned, this is a pile-driven system, where the piles will be driven based on the manufacturer's guidelines. They will determine how long the piles are or should be based on their study of the ground terrain. They'll do geotech, which will determine the depth of the piles, how long the piles should be, and they're looking at the water table and all of that to see how deep they should actually drive the piles into the ground. So this is going to be a pile-driven system. As I mentioned, that as far as impervious condition is concerned, I think we have an impervious, total impervious area of 14,104 square feet for this system, which includes the roadway and the actual piles that are driven in the ground. One thing about these piles, they are aluminum based, so they do not leach in the ground, so they don't affect the water table at all. So it's neutral to the land, as it were. right, just to give that idea. One of the things that we were concerned about, we don't really want to core the ground if I don't have to because of the wet conditions. We prefer to use a cab cabling system, which is a suspended cable, which is an accepted methodology of installing cables on the site. If you choose to insist on the ground mount, we will do that still, but we would really prefer if we could actually have the cab cabling installed on the site. It's really neat, it looks good, and it doesn't cause any issues as far as the operational system is concerned. It's an easier install option for us. So, and we don't have to trench the site. So we don't have to disturb the ground in any way. That's true. And so the only disturbance we'll be having is the piles going in the ground, so to speak. All right, as far as the system is concerned, we did do a simulation for the system. We're using the PVSys, which is the international known recognized simulator. And for this system, we're producing close to 13 gigawatt of energy per year, which is equivalent to about 2,500 homes within the county. So we're producing quite a bit of energy from the system being delivered to the grid. All right. We also have some benefits to the county. We're developing green profile energy, as I mentioned, but we're a union company, so we employ union workers in the county. So we're using the local IBEW for the work. We also have local labor that we use to do the fencing and whatever ancillary work that we need to do here. And of course, local long-term security. The person living in the county will be providing this long-term security for us. It's a long-term job. As far as taxes is concerned, we estimate that we'll be developing approximately $53,000 per year as far as taxes on this real estate taxes on the site as it is, based on a formula that's established within the state. So we're looking at about a 1.3 million revenue in taxes over a 25-year period as far as the life of the project is concerned, right? So on that basis. All right, we did have some comments from the Riley Township. I think Mr. Kirk, you sent something that to us. As far as drainage patterns is concerned, the solar system is neutral to the site. Solar systems have been installed on water tables and installed in water on lakes and whatever else. And it doesn't affect the site at all. It's neutral to the site, to the drainage in the site. So we don't see a problem there. And I said before, we'll do a drain tile study to determine the length of the pylons that we need to include in there. As far as fencing is concerned, we will move the fence, the front fence, 25 foot from the roadway as requested by the Riley Township. We'll have the engineer's report that Joe will provide to you later, right? As far as the construction bond is concerned, we will provide that bond that you requested as well. A full engineering set will be provided to you as we have provided to the county. We'll also provide one to you to get all permits from you. As far as road reach is concerned, we'll abide by the conditions that you have said as far as when we can have consistent traffic on the road. And the driveway access, Joe will work with you guys to determine the requirements for the access roadway that we want to make sure we design it to suit your application. ComEd will do their own permitting process because they're the ones who provided the power to us. They will do their own designs, seek their own permit for upgrades of whatever is being done there. And the staging area is in fact temporary as we indicated on our drawings. The staff comments, we can go through that in the questions. If you have questions there, so I'll skip over that just to make sure we have enough time. We did have one objection from Deborah Bullen, is that correct? All right. I don't know if she's here, but we have tried to address the concerns that she has had. She has noted in her written response, and we are saying that the solar plant will not affect the current conditions of the site. It will not produce any seepage into the groundwater, so there's no issue there. The plant will not affect the presence of the water around the base of the system. Right, so the water won't rust our pylons. Pylons won't, they're rust free, so they won't rust if water is sitting in water for years, it still won't rust because it's an aluminum alloy, so it doesn't rust. And of course, there's no grading in the land because it's pretty much a flat land. And we look at the NIR report, and it doesn't affect us as far as all it does is inform us as to how tall or how long the pylons should be. Right? That's the only effect that it gives us. It tells us if we're going to use an 8-foot pylon or a 10-foot pylon or a 15-foot pylon, which is most I've seen so far is a 10-foot pylon. We have not really need to go beyond as far as section that's buried in the ground. But the engineers and the racking company will determine that when they have done their study and send us that information. All right. And I've provided, I don't need to read all of this again, but just say that we have addressed comments accordingly. And this presentation will be available for review by the parties in concern. All right, so that basically is my initial comments, and we're open for questions or concerns that you guys might have. Hope I was not too long.
No, you have all the time you need.
Okay.
And would you like to provide the testimony from your engineer then? Is there something else that you need to provide to us?
Basically, I'm here for moral support and answering questions.
Okay, we'll start with questions. Am I right, Mr. Dahlman?
Thank you. Mrs. Boland's photograph showed water on the property.
Yes.
How often in the last 15 years has there been significant water on that property?
Well, as far as we know, it's been flooded probably annually, right? But as I said, we have installed systems on lakes, so it really doesn't matter to us how much flooding is there. Our system will still work. And the height of the water is usually about, I think the high table is what, 3 feet or 2.5 feet or something like that. So we will be above that as far as installing concerned. Our lowest point of the panel is going to be 3 feet off the ground. So we will not be sitting in the water.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Schnabel.
Yeah, good afternoon. On one of your beginning slides in this presentation, you mentioned you had another solar farm in Marengo. I believe it was
Yes.
20 megawatts.
Yes.
Can you tell us where that is?
That should be, well, we had a little difficulty in getting our power purchase agreement signed, resolved. We have gotten that done last week, and we're intending to break ground on that site next Friday.
Is that in unincorporated Marengo?
Yes, it's unincorporated.
West Grant Highway.
LLC.
It was under Kachi Energy, if you remember.
Yes.
Kachi. What happened to Kachi?
They're actually the ones who own this project, in fact.
They own the what?
They own MP Solar.
I'm sorry, the door was clicking. What was it?
Kachi Energy actually owns MP Solar.
So they own this company
They own this
that's
company
that's bringing this permit to you.
Yes, yes.
And that was going to be one of my questions. What does the acronym NP stand for? Is it for
I
anything?
have no idea. Honestly, I don't know what it means.
So Kachi filed the petition
Yeah, along with WCP Solar on that previous,
jointly.
yes.
We're the engineers, so we're just the consultants.
When we heard that application originally, was it not under a different name than that? Either one of these? It wasn't Kachi, I don't believe.
This one or the previous?
No, the one that
Yeah.
he's just got a final approval on apparently.
Yeah, it
Oh, that was,
West Grant.
the names have been changing number of times.
That's why I'm asking.
The
I'm trying to keep
final
track.
name for the Marengo project is Kachi.
There was
Energy.
another project under West Grant Development that's unrelated, but it's also on West Grant Highway. So that might be where it's confusing.
Well, at least we know where that is.
That one.
So NP doesn't stand for anything in particular.
Not that I know of.
All right. I went on the Energy Equity Illinois website, which is provided as part of Illinois Shines. And you mentioned that you testified your IPA approved vendor.
Yes.
I did a printout which is last revised October of '25 apparently for their description of WCP Solar Services. There's different entity types. At one time, at least, you were definitely an approved vendor, it appears. And it goes into suspensions that WCP has had filed in the past. And I won't read the whole thing. It just basically sums up WCP's solar suspension term was extended 5 times, with the final extension being indefinite. WCP Solar did not appeal their initial suspension, first extension, second extension, third extension. An appeal was submitted on October 11th, 2021 for their 4th suspension extension. The appeal was denied on December 8, 2021. Could you explain any of what was going on with that apparently?
Well, we have had some difficulty when COVID came in, and with that is being resolved now, and we expect that within the next couple months, we should have suspension. We have not really been doing much as far as residential units are concerned, so we have been, we're hoping to resolve that in the next couple months.
So it doesn't sound to me like you are approved at this time.
At this time, we are still an approved vendor because we still have customers that we service from the vendor process, but we are suspended from that program because we really have not been trying to get involved in that program.
That's all for now. Thank you.
And by the way, the utility scale systems are not under that program. This is a utility scale program.
Okay, so now, are you actually representing NP Solar or are you representing Kachi?
We
Or
represent MP Solar at this one.
NP Solar?
Yes.
Oh, and you don't know what that stands for?
I don't know what the acronym means, but I know the owners of the project.
Okay. Now, does NP own the property that this is going to be built on?
Yes.
Okay, and does NP plan on actually doing the construction and the maintenance of the project, or just?
Yes.
Okay, so you're not planning on selling this project off to another company?
No, that is not their plan as far as I was informed. Just like the Moringa project, they have this project and they have another one in Cape Town that they're working on as well. So they're looking at a portfolio of projects. They have another 40 megawatt in Hopkins Park that they're looking at as well. So they have a number of projects across the state that they're working to get processed.
Okay. What's happening on this site right now? Is there actually farming going on, or is it just basically vacant?
Last year, nothing happened last year. Before there was farms, there was corn there. I think there was leased, and there was some corn growing there. I don't know what has happened to it, but right now the site is bare.
Okay. So do you feel that the amount of water on the site had something to do with the lack of farming on the site?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think there were 2 ladies that were farming it, but doing corn there sometime. But I'm not sure exactly. They were at least the property, and they were doing some farming as far as I was.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that there would be some minimal tree removal. Can you point out on your site plan where that would be?
There are some trees
Put it up on the
Yeah,
screen,
if you can.
the site plan on the screen.
I can do that. I forgot I can do that. In this area, there are some trees around here that we intend to remove.
Okay. Do you have any idea of an estimate of how many trees would be removed?
It's about an acre and a half.
An acre and a half of trees?
Yeah, approximately.
Okay.
Not a lot of trees.
Okay.
And not all the trees need to be removed as well. There's some trees in this area that we don't need to be removed. It's what I know some will be.
So there's that lower loop down there that you don't need to remove trees, is that what you said? Okay, you need to speak up a little bit. I'm thinking people back there can't hear
Yes, so
you.
there's some, we'll look at the full survey of that site to figure exactly which area they're removed. But it's approximately about 1.5 acres of trees to be removed from the site.
Okay, so it's all up in that
Yes,
northeast corner?
yes, the rest of the property is there.
Okay, all right. So you said you are the developer and operator, is that correct?
No, I am the engineer.
Okay, you're the engineer, but the company is going to be operating,
Yes.
okay. Now, the panels themselves, you said they could be 8, 10, or 15 feet tall, is that correct, depending on what you need to do there?
Panels,
Right,
I mean the racking.
right, the
Oh.
solar panels
Okay.
themselves,
The
that's
rack-
what we're talking about,
The
right?
the lower section of the racking, when the panels installed, were about 3 feet, and the back side is about 13 feet in the back.
Okay, and are these, do these rotate with the
No,
sun?
they're fixed.
They're fixed?
Fixed it.
Okay, so they're tilted toward which direction?
South.
South, okay.
A
And they're,
30-degree tilt to the south.
okay, and are they bifacial or single face?
They are bifacial.
They're bifacial, okay. Can you tell me a little bit about this cab cabling, the suspended cabling system you're talking about? How high up does this cable?
Those cables are about 3 feet off the ground. Yeah, those cables are about 3 feet off the ground, suspended by the ground cable. The ground conductor actually is used as a support
Oh,
plate.
that's the cabling you're talking about?
Yes, that's a cab cable.
Okay. And that then is along each row of panels?
It will run alongside one side of the array. Quite likely on the west side, it'll just run right along the edge, and all the cables get corralled into the trays. It's like a duct work, but it's an open duct work that the cables can sit in. But they'll be anchored between the different rails. For instance, the ground cable will be anchored to one of the racking and then skip over to the next racking, cantilever to the next racking, etc.
Okay, so what I'm looking at here, is this actually a functioning cabling
Yes,
system?
yes.
Okay, so that is then on one side of the project and it's all fed into the project?
It's gonna be on one, it could be, the engineer will determine what's the best location for it, but more likely to be at one end of the project, other side, one side of the project, and collect all the cables in that trough and runs it down to the inverters. Whether it's gonna be on the west end or the center will be determined by the engineers as to
Okay.
what's the best route.
Okay, I think that's all I have for now, thank you.
Mr. Eldridge.
Yes. I just want to clarify the ownership. Does your company have any ownership of this facility?
No, we don't. We are just the engineers.
You're just the engineer, you don't have any ownership of Kachi?
No, I don't.
So you're simply design build for the project with your other subcontractors?
Yes, we are the EPC for the project.
Okay.
Engineers, the procurers of material, and the constructors. We get paid and we leave. And if we are contracted to maintain it, we will be contracted to maintain it. That's separate.
So it's your anticipation that you'll build it, you'll design it, you'll get it approved, you'll build it, and you'll go away. And Kachi will be there permanently unless you get a contract as the, to operate it going forward. But how much electricity it generates and so forth is not your concern. It's the owner gets the money for that.
Yes, he does.
Okay.
Fortunately.
That's
But
all I got.
I get paid to build the system and build it to the specs. And of course, after first 5 years after maintaining the system, initial first 5 years. And then after that.
And you do at this point have the appropriate unsuspended licenses to do what you've contracted to do for there.
Yes, my license will never suspend as far as the EPC is concerned, yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted.
Ms. Donner.
What kind of trees on that 1.5 acres?
There are a variety of trees. There's some, and there was no conifers. I think there was some, I'm not sure what trees are, forgive me. But there are a number of small, local trees there. I'm not sure exactly what they are.
I'm thinking, do you have any, there any oak trees that you know of?
I don't think there were any oak trees there, no.
Okay.
I don't think there was any oak trees there.
On that, the one picture of the property, it looks like you're avoiding a ponding area.
Oh, I mean,
I'll go back to that's,
oh,
yeah,
you mean?
right
this-
there.
Okay.
So is that all water?
That's a lot of water. That's pretty deep. There's almost like a river running in that space.
Okay,
That's pretty deep.
so that's why you're
water.
avoiding it?
Yeah, that's what it went, because it's rather deep, and I think there's a creek that runs right next to it. I would not
Okay.
necessarily, it's just more expensive to put piles
Right.
into the river itself,
Right.
so we're avoiding it if we can.
Do you, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Give me just a second. Will any of the fencing be in a watered area?
Yes, the fencing will go right along the full perimeter of the property will be fenced. For insurance purposes, we have to fence it.
Oh, of course you do.
So it will be fenced appropriately.
I'm going to, we require, or we ask, we suggest, it's in our conditions that it's the agricultural fencing.
That's fine,
That's fine?
that's fine.
Okay, then I have no questions at the moment.
Mr. Cozen?
Thank you. Just to pick up on that fencing, and then you are aware that there is a space in the lower level?
Yes,
For-
6 inches.
6 inches.
We did mention that in the presentation.
Do you have an interconnect agreement yet with Commonwealth Edison?
We just got our feasibility study report agreement today. So we're expecting that we will have the interconnection agreement within 30 days, 30 to 45 days from.
Were there any obligations that Commonwealth Edison had presented that required armoring or reinforcement that was beyond the initial design budget for this project?
No, there wasn't. The only thing that was different is that we initially designed it using 34.5 kV, and they have since said it's going to be 12.5. But the inverter we have can do 12.5 as well. So it's,
And then Commonwealth Edison's arrival line along the roadway requires no additional service?
I'm not sure what ComEd is going to do, right? They will determine how they bring the power to us, right? They'll charge us a figure, which when they said initially it's going to be between $50,000 to $150,000 for the upgrade. So they will design the system and bring that to us. We have not seen their design yet, so we're waiting on their design and their price.
But at this point in your understanding, there is nothing you're expecting that would have you walk away from this project or the owner walk away from this
No.
project?
No, there's nothing that we expect to happen. An indication we have had from ComEd is that just the cost for the installation. We did do a preliminary study of the site with ComEd to see if it's feasible. It was feasible, and they did say it was possible. So they gave us a feeder terminal to work with. So we're working with them according to what they have.
Thank you. There's an easement that runs diagonally through the property for a pipeline.
Yes.
Has that company been contacted, or have they rendered an opinion, or how does that sit in your design?
We did get some contact with them, and accordingly, we have made sure that we are not putting anything over their property or going through their property with anything.
Or proximity and distance from the?
Yes, they had a 50-foot offset from both sides. So it's 100-foot on both sides. That's what we have in the design.
Just to be clear, the panels are fixed, so they will not be tracking, and once installed, that is the direction that they will be attached to the array?
That is correct, sir.
In terms of the equipment, Any comment that you wish to emphasize in terms of noise, in terms of their operation?
Yes, the noise level on the panels have no noise, obviously. The only element that has any noise is the inverter, and it's about 50 dB, so it's marginal, so you won't, it's less than a transformer on the road, so you won't hear that being of any consequence to the area.
Approximate distance of the inverters to any of the property lines? Or?
Yes.
An approximate?
Approximately, the first inverter, which is here, it's approximately 200 feet from the property line. And the second inverter somewhere here is another, probably 600 feet from the property line.
There's a condition on the construction that shows that there's an impervious roadway about 50 feet off of the interconnect. Who imposed that condition of the impervious driveway?
The impervious driveway has been, right here, it's pretty much has been, you want to address that?
Sure, typically the fire departments want to have a hard surface they can drive onto back to the inverter.
Would you identify yourself?
Oh, Joe Hines, civil engineering project.
And let the people behind you hear you too.
Yeah, we can.
And my wife tells me I don't talk loud enough.
I bet they didn't hear that.
So typically at the fire department, that requires a hard surface so they can get back to the inverters in case there's a fire back there.
So beyond the 50 feet in terms of drainage and stormwater, it will be rocked or crushed gravel or some drivable surface?
Correct.
That's correct.
The, in terms of that cabling, any addressing issues in terms of wildlife or so forth, gnawing, eating, chewing, etc.?
Actually, the studies that have been done and from the manufacturer, they have not suggested that wildlife has had any problems with the cables. We don't expect any moose to be on the side of the fencing that we have, you know. But the goats won't eat the cables and the sheep won't eat the cable. I don't expect squirrels to eat the cable as well.
Just to continue that line of discussion, Commonwealth Edison is notorious for holding up a fried squirrel and telling me that that's why the lights are on in my house. And so I just want to pass that point on in this novel. The other thing with the cabling, the condition is, does that impede the movement between the panels? Because you have it crossing from array to array. Do you have to step over it, or how do you detect?
Well, it will be, as you see here, the cable is going to be to one side of the array, right? So the only persons we expect to be moving in the array are the mowers, right? We don't expect traffic to be inside there. So the mowers will see where the cables are, because as you see, it's very evident. The neon colored highlights will be there, so you can see what you're going. You won't run into the cables, you'll see it right before your face. And it's high enough so you can move underneath it if you need to, right? So we don't expect any pedestrian traffic to moving through the site. So because of the fence and the secured fence with the electrical fence noted on it, not electrified, electrical fencing coat on it. So, but you're right, it's not something that is as free to move from row to row as you like to, but it's a design constraint and it's an installation constraint which you have to live. It's better than actually going on the ground. That's the idea.
No different than strapping across the bridge over Coon Creek, if
That's
that was
correct.
necessary to do. Going to the, there is a certain dispute whether or not goats are appropriate, and I would ask you to give consideration. There's some belief that they are used that as a jumping off point, or they're not the most accommodating animal in that area. But I'm not offering testimony to that, and I'm not a goat herder from the township in which I reside. So I just suggest you to look greater detail to that point.
Yes, we have had a presentation before from the Vortex folks, and we're looking into it. We have not decided on that path yet, but we are looking at the option and see if it's possible. Would love to employ other Vortex if we can, because it'll be a cool idea. just for the publicity alone, it'll be a cool idea. So we are looking at options. And if it doesn't work, then mowing is always the first choice.
Do you have, thank you. Do you have somebody who can speak to greater detail to the Hay and Associates report that is part of the information? It's pages 92 to 126.
I haven't seen the report.
It's on the public record, as part of the public record. I just didn't want to ask a question about the Hay report if there's no one on the board who can.
That's a wetland study.
Right.
Well, I can speak to it as much as I can read the stuff that's in it. but that's just their status as what the site is, you know. So.
And then I'll leave it at that, in that end of it, but I will note that there is a Hay and Associates wetland report in this material, and thank you. That concludes my comment.
So I have a few questions. So the flood of record, when the NRI report was done, they did not have a site plan. It was unclear what floodplain areas will be impacted, but it looks like this just goes right across the floodplain, correct?
As far as the flood is concerned, there is it's not very clear on this picture.
The flood zone is like the yellow, so that's really basically,
Most of the site from around here.
yes, looks like it.
Most of the west side and a couple of the east side.
Can you point that on
And so
the
you're
screen so
going-
we can see what we're looking at?
What is it?
So you can ask a question right now.
I'm just saying he needs to show that, not.
Yeah, he's showing me the site plan now, and there's a FEMA flood zone down in the bottom with the key, and it looks like it's yellow. And that really looks like it goes across really the, you know, the vast majority of the panels. Would that be correct?
That is correct.
And then the wetland study that was done, you have the aided wetlands. Are they identified now?
Yes, the wetlands are all identified as key here.
Well, that's the NRCS wetland. That's not the aided wetland. And according to the NRI, it says a wetland delineation had not been completed when they did their report. And as they were not provided with a site plan, it's unclear if those wetland areas would be impacted. And additional permitting would be required. So did your wetland study then show if you have any aided wetlands?
The wetland delineation study was submitted the same time with the initial report. I don't know why they didn't have that. And the site plan was also submitted at the same time. So I don't know why that wasn't provided to them. But we do have a full Hayes report that referred to Mr. Coyston is in fact the wetland delineation study that was done.
So maybe that was, let's see the date on that. Yeah, that was done in 2024, so they should have had that but they weren't provided that when they did that report. So you're saying that those are not impacted at all?
No.
Okay. And the farmed wetlands are impacted?
Yes.
But you don't see any problem with the impacts to any of the, you know, obviously if there were drain tile in there, it wouldn't be wetland probably, you know. But as you say, a wetland delineation or a drain tile delineation will still be done. And if there are any drain tiles in there, then they will have to be repaired or, yeah, they would have to be maintained. And as far as the inverters in the center, they're right adjacent to the easement then for the gas easement? Is that where you're putting them?
They're next to the roadway.
Okay,
They're not
So-
right next to this. The roadway, then the inverters.
okay. So the roadway is adjacent to the right-of-way for the easement? Okay.
That is correct.
And so then all these cables then will have to go to those inverters?
That's correct.
So it's probably a chance that those cables will be right along the interior portion.
It's
Yeah.
likely that it can be run, there can be a collection here and then come across along on the
Okay.
panels.
Sure, sure,
Stuff.
yeah, okay.
Because there's room to move it alongside, underneath one of the
Okay.
rows of the panels. So
And
we
the
collect
mowing-
collect it here and then run all the way to where the
Yeah,
panels are.
we've never seen that sort of thing before, so that's why we have questions, because they were
That's why I brought
always
it.
underground. Yeah, so that's a new thing for us. And so as far as mowing with those, and again, these areas are mowed like 2 or 3 times a year, correct? Because we want wildflowers, we want pollinators, we want, things good for, unless it's agrivoltaics with sheep. And I know goats jump on
The panels.
panels, so goats are not agrivoltaics, but
Because of the angle of the panels, this is a 30-degree angle, it's less likely that the goats will stay on if they jump on it.
yeah, and the sheep that, when they use agrivoltaics with sheep, they again tend to come in for like a week or so. They do the mowing essentially, and then they leave, and then the grass grows back up and blooms and does what it does. Yeah, okay. Okay, and the nearest residence is across the street to the south, is that correct?
Yes, the nearest resident is approximately 225 feet from this corner. It's about 225 feet from this corner, as far as the residence is concerned.
And that would be on the south side of Anthony Road, correct?
That is correct.
And so your buffer that you have, your landscape buffer that you have along Anthony Road, can you tell me a little bit more about what you plan to plant there? And is it 1 line, is it 2 lines? How's that gonna look to help the neighbors have a better screen for this?
Well, the initial plan was to, we were going to move this, initially we had the buffer, the fencing right next to the property line, but based on request from Raleigh Township, we moved it 25 feet back. So it's going to be a little, because we half distance here. But we're planning to install conifers, Christmas tree type plants. We're looking at planting them. I think the initial plan was, let me see if we can find that here. Initial plan was to be, let's see the measurements here, right? 6 feet apart from each other. That's the spacing. Whether it makes sense to do 6 feet apart or 3 foot staggered, we'll look at that as what best suits that location. But we don't want the trees to crowd each other, otherwise they kill each other, right? So, and
We've had other companies who, because the neighbors wanted, like it staggered, because then that would provide a better screen for them, that they did it. What did we do the last time? We did it 15 feet?
20 feet. I wanted to
15
go
feet
15,
staggered.
but we went 20. 20 feet staggered.
20 feet staggered, yeah, so it was
that's
in 2
less
rows.
trees.
Yeah, so instead of you're doing every 6 feet,
Well, it depends too on the width of the trees, because
What
these
kind of
were,
tree?
these were pines, so they really,
The same kind we're looking at. But
Oh, I
they have
thought you
different-
said-
They have different size pines,
Yeah.
so we'll choose the one that's best suited.
pick a fat one, yeah.
so you wouldn't be opposed to us, if we asked for a double line so that it
No.
would be a better,
No, we have,
Better
the space is
screen.
there, the space is there for that, so we're not.
okay. All right, so if we developed a condition that made that different, you'd be fine with that?
That's correct.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we're looking at installing the trees on the outside of the fence, right? But we are open to do it inside the fence as well, so it's an option. You can tell us what best suits your guidelines. Because right now we have it designed for outside the fence. It helps with the fence screening as well. So you don't just the trees are screened, but but the fence is also screened.
Okay, Kim, can you tell us what we normally do? Is it,
There is nothing in the UDO that specifies whether it needs to be inside or outside of the fence, so it is, whatever you prefer, or whatever the developer typically does, but it does not matter as far as zoning regulations.
okay. All right, those are my questions.
I have one more.
Okay, go ahead.
I was looking through your presentation materials, and I did not see a response to the conditional use standards. Did you reply to that in writing?
Yes, it did.
Okay, this is just like one long book in here.
Yeah.
And
We did do a formal response to all the conditional.
do we have that in,
Yeah, it's in the narrative.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, I can take your word for it.
Sorry, I can provide this to you.
That's okay.
Eventually I'll find it.
I tried to dot all my i's and cross my t's.
All right,
Is
good.
that what it is, or dot t's, cross i's?
Here, I'll look at it.
Oh, no, I don't need to, if he says he has it,
Okay.
he's under oath, he's gotta have it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, he's
There you go.
addressed the standards, and it's all written, and it's on the website, and it's in our report.
Okay.
Yes,
May I
Mr.
follow
Schnabel?
up on something?
You certainly may.
Can we go back to the fence for just a moment?
Yes.
I keep hearing 25 feet, 25 feet. From where to where is 25 feet? Because I know that you received a letter from Dave Diamond, our road commissioner. He was very specific as to what he wanted to see.
Yes, it specifically required us to have the fence moved back 25 feet from the right-of-way, edge of right-of-way.
Okay, so you're actually going to be more closer to 50 feet from the side of the edge of the road, basically.
That's quite true, yes.
Yeah, I believe that's what he was
That's
looking for.
That's exactly what it is. Because we have a 50-foot offset that we want, we're gonna, approximately 50 feet from the right.
Okay, thank you.
And then the trees will be before that. That's what the plan is.
So that'll be up to him.
We're open to.
Linnea, I have a follow-up, please.
Sure, Mr.
You
Donovan.
mentioned the right-of-way for the gas pipeline. What happens in the future if they want to put another pipeline down that right-of-way? Is that going to disrupt your entire system?
No, actually, because the right, if I go back to this plan here, we have a lot, there's over nearly 100 feet, probably more in some places, for that right of way. So anywhere within this right of way, there's a 50-foot, and this middle line here is where the actual pipe is currently.
Okay.
The gas line there. If they want to do more work in that space, that's their choice. They can do whatever they want to do, but they cannot affect our undisturbed site because they cannot increase the right of way beyond what they have. So they have 100 foot here that we are giving them a buffer for. So they can do whatever they want in that buffer. There's a roadway there to help them to get to that place if they want to, but it won't disturb our work at all.
Okay.
The only thing that there's gonna be a fence there, and they have a coordinate with us, there's a gate, and if they want to get in, they have to
Yes.
talk to us.
I notice you're tight to that right-of-way. I've seen construction sites where they pushed that limit out a little bit for the work and then kept their pipes inside the right-of-way, so that's a concern.
Okay, whatever their concerns, we will work with them to address that. But I don't know if they're gonna put anything else in this site, but that's their choice. I have no, kind of development growth, I suppose.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Kim, do you have any questions?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. So Dave Diamond, the highway commissioner, had indicated that there's a 90-day period with reduced weight limits on the road, that construction cannot take place between February 1st and May 1st. Does that work with your typical construction schedule, or is that typically when you would be looking to do work
I
there?
think his comment specific was that construction traffic should not be on the road during that time.
Correct.
So we can still do construction, so that would be a bad idea. But we can always move the stuff in outside of that window,
Yes.
right? So we can manage our construction project. All that does for us is guides us on our scheduling as to what we do when.
Okay.
Right? So we're fine.
That would be okay, okay. And then just going back to the conversation on the cab cabling, I know that a base flood elevation determination needs to be done to determine where that BFE is. Any equipment would need to be elevated at least 2 feet above that BFE. Does that cabling racking allow for it to be adjusted up and down if it needed to, or will it definitely be at least 2 feet above the BFE?
Well, as it is right now, we are looking at, as we have it designed here, if you look at this site here, the cable is gonna, the lowest point, the racking is about here, the panels are gonna be somewhere here.
And
About
that's
3 feet.
what, 3 feet,
About
did
3
you
feet
say?
from the base load. Our racking, our cabling is gonna be running alongside this, so it's likely gonna be just about the lowest point of the,
So in line with the low point of the
In line.
of the panel? Okay.
unless, which I don't wanna do if I don't have to, unless we install a separate pylon for the cabling, which is a possibility. It's still better than pouring, right? Because we wouldn't be, if we do underground, we're not gonna be trenching. We're gonna be pouring underneath, underground, which I prefer not to do if I don't have to, because I don't know what's under there, right? So if we can do the cap cabling, we'll just put another pile just for running the cable outside of the panel array.
So that it can be adjusted to whatever height it
To
needs
the
to
height.
be. And then I know you talked about the pile depth dependent on like the geotech studies and the soils. If those do need to be longer, is that going to impact how tall the highest point of the panel would be? Or would that still just be how much is underground?
The amount underground.
It won't, because you said 13 feet is about how high the panels would be at the highest point?
Yes, the panels, the height, the piles, this is the pile, right? And the amount above ground will be about 5 feet,
Okay,
regardless
regardless of how deep it has to go.
So 5 feet plus 8 foot, or 5 feet plus. The longest pile typically installed is 20 feet. And in Illinois, we have done several projects, and the longest we have installed in Illinois is 18 feet,
Okay.
right? So the total length.
Okay.
So 13 feet on the ground versus shortest typically is about 8. I think 6 foot is one that we have done. And in some cases where there's rocky terrain, it's a screw, it's a little shorter, 4 foot. But typically between 8 to 13 feet.
So there would never be a concern that the panels would exceed that 20-foot height limit at all?
No, they won't, because we're gonna have to make sure, if we do that, then we're gonna have a really disjointed array, which look very messy.
Okay.
So we try to maintain the height,
Sure.
the height above ground, about 5 feet,
Okay.
and then the rest of it is down.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I have.
Okay. So at this time, any member of the public who has a question, now's your opportunity. And again, I ask you to refrain from comments. This is the time for questions regarding the testimony. Give your name and address, and then you'll have your opportunity to ask questions. So ask you to come up here.
Can I just ask a question about the questions?
Sure.
Is the 3 minutes include the time they take to answer the questions?
No, you can take your 3 minutes to ask
Okay,
all the
I just
questions
needed
you want.
clarification, thank you.
Yeah, it's just after the 3 minutes, you can't talk anymore, but he can finish it. Yes, questions.
I can go if
Okay, come
everybody
on
else
up.
wants to. First, anyway?
And if you have more questions that you don't get answered, pass them off to somebody else and they can ask
Okay,
questions.
very good. I am going to ask to sit down because I'm visually impaired and I need
Sure.
to see my
That's
paper
just fine.
closer. And could you please start my questions at the plot that you show all the panels?
The site plan, basically?
No, the one that it actually shows the panels. Okay, there you go. Perfect, okay.
So I need your name.
My name is
and-
Dolores Mallory. I live at 23513 Anthony Road in Marengo, Illinois. My first question is to ask
You
if
want to
you,
sit down?
oh yes, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure, it's
The
fine.
first question I want to ask is if you've ever been to the site. The reason that I say that, am I allowed to move?
You are.
Is because my husband and I live right here. And you did not reference at all that particular residence. So our residence is here. This is a picture looking out from our residence across the road, if anybody would care to see that. So I'm more
You wanna show it
interested.
to him?
I'm more interested in it as my residential property. I know some of the other people will talk about the ecology. I've heard there's a lot of glare with the panels. That's one of the concerns I have with my home being right there is, are we gonna have glare? Is it gonna wreck our siding? Is it gonna wreck our eyesight more? I'm also worried about, we also own the farmland on that side, on the east side of the parcel. So that all has been cropped previously. Just to make that clear, it does grow crops every year. The whole thing is in the floodplain. As the picture shows, we've seen it across the road, up to the road and crossing the road there. We also have tiles in our property. Are you going to damage our tiles when you're pounding all those pylons and moving around your tiles? Are you going to be, as somebody said, going on our property when you're building? And, you know, you talked about the noise. What about the lighting? Is the area lit? How is it lit? And is that gonna, you know, we live in the country because we like it to be dark. Is that gonna ruin the aesthetics of the land? You talked about the maintenance, but you know, when you put in all the nice wildflowers and stuff, are the sheep gonna eat actually what you plant? I don't really know anything about that. We are under current contract with the pipeline people. They are putting in a new pipeline next to the existing in a whole nother easement. So that footage that's there is already changing. I don't know if you've seen that. I also would request that we could get a site visit from somebody from this company. This really doesn't do me any good, especially when they don't even have my residence. They've not really talked about my residence on there. There is a lot of flooding there. Of course, my concern is with the ecology, you know, with both the wildlife and the soil. Again, Riley is a, you know, an agricultural township, and I really hate to see that all, you know, go away. They actually had talked about that previously, so I mean, they're aware of that. The height of the panels, again, I'm still a little bit fuzzy on exactly how tall, when I look out, how tall am I going to see those panels? Well, where are those panels going to land?
No, you can answer.
Oh, okay.
You could answer all her questions.
I'm going to try to answer all your questions. If I iterate with you, please.
Sure, you can address, I mean, you can address everyone. These are a lot of my neighbors and.
Okay. First question.
You want to kind of turn your chair so they can all hear
First
really well,
question,
and we
relation-
can hear too, but yeah, that would be helpful.
First question in relation to your residence. What was referred here is the site that is resident that is closest to the corners of the panels, right? So the closest measurement based on the geotech study what we did, the closest house to the site is 250 feet to that corner that you see there. That's the closest one to the site. Not the other residences. We're not saying that they're not affected, but we're referring to the closest one to the site. And requirements that we screen the site from the residents in general. And as a matter of fact,
I'm sorry, I don't understand, because again, my residence is there. I don't understand how you can say it's not in the property line.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying that the screening is required within 500 foot of any home. So right now, we are screening as the closest to the closest resident. So therefore, it applies to anything that is closest and beyond that. So your home might be 300 feet or 257 feet or whatever it might be.
100 feet.
Right? Could be 100 feet, but we are still
That's what
screening.
ours is, about 100 feet.
So we are screening anything within 500 feet from the.
So those two homes up in the corner, one of those would be her homes across the street?
No, actually,
I'll show you where the homes are, because I live out there. I know where they are.
there are two homes here.
Our
Oh,
home
they're
is-
east of the
Our home
property.
is here, and the other home he's referencing
Yeah,
is, actually, his home is here, because the property X is about right there, so his property is here, and his home is there.
yeah. When we just did a measurement as a crow flies to the closest house. Right? So regardless of what it is, we are still screening the entire width of the site up to 500 feet to the corner here. It's being screened with the conifers or the trees that are in place to screen. right? So regardless of how close you are, we're still screening your house from the panels.
So you just inadvertently left us out when you were talking about it, but you're gonna do it.
It's gonna be, essentially, yes, because it's a catch-all. We're screening regardless of where the house is. Right? So we're screening from the roadway as well. So it's not just from the house, we're screening from the roadway, that's what we are required to do. That's why we're doing that. All right, as far as the height of the panels are concerned, 13 foot is from the BFE to the height of the back of the panels. They are 30-degree sloped panels, all right? So, and I don't know if you can measure 30 feet is about the height of this building here, as far as the back of the panels are concerned, right? I'm trying to remember all the questions, there's so many.
The glare?
Oh, the glare. The glare on these panels are minimal. I don't expect, granted, depending on the sun in the panels, the right angle might cause a reflection.
Well, I mean, the sun's on it all the time. That's the purpose.
Well, it's not all the time, but regardless of that, it's not, the glare is not, these are anti-glare panels that we are putting in place. Because we have used this for airports as well. All right, so essentially, if you need to give us for us to give an anti-glare study, we can provide that as well. All right, so that's okay.
Broken tiles, about breaking my tiles when you pound your pylons in the ground?
We are working totally within the confines of our property line.
But you're talking about pounding pylons in the ground?
Doesn't affect the pylons.
The vibration and everything.
Okay, you're not allowed to speak yet. You'll get your turn later.
Vibration in the ground?
The pylons that are being driven, we don't expect the vibration to affect your pylons. And if they, however, cause a damage to your site that you can prove that we have done, then we'll address it. Right? If there's a consequence as a result of the pile driving, then we'll address it. We don't expect that to be the case because we have not seen where the pile driving on one side cause effect to another side. It's highly unlikely that will happen. But if it does, and we can prove that we caused that damage, then let's discuss it and we see if we can mitigate that cost.
And what about the?
You're done. He's just answering the question.
No, but I mean, he still has to answer a question about the pipeline. I don't think he addressed that.
Got it.
Correct? Am I correct?
Yeah.
The lighting, the site will not be lit. There's no lighting on the site beyond what the sun provides. We are installing no lights at all on the site.
So like not even in the drive, the
No
entrance
lighting
to
at
get
all.
in there?
No lighting at all. We work only in the day.
Possible expansion of the easement?
That we'll have to discover when we talk to them. If we need to modify the system size, then we'll have to do that based on what different easement modification is. But that's a discussion to be had with the owner and his consultation with the, because if he bought the site.
You need to speak up, sir, so everyone.
He bought the site, and if he bought it with a certain constraint, if they're gonna require easement, they'll have to talk with him about buying the easement from him, and he'll decide how he plays that around. Because this easement is what was on the contract with the purchase of the site. So any modification to the site, that is his terms and conditions with the possible project owners.
And then the floodplain, I can speak to that. Well, we have to determine, we understand it floods, it's in the floodplain. So what's required of us is to determine the height of the flooding. Currently, FEMA does not have an elevation of that, so we'll have to do a site-specific study to determine the height. And then we're required to have 2 feet above that for the lowest part of the panels.
Okay, I think you covered it.
Yep, he got them all.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to ask a
Can
question?
I just clarify something really quick?
Oh, yeah, go right ahead.
I knew there was a discrepancy about whether the Mallory's property was shown here. I believe that the residence that's at the far
This
top
one
of the
here?
page there, that says 279 feet,
This one?
the one with the 2 rectangles on top.
Oh, this
That-
one?
I believe that's the Mallory residence based off of what I have
That is,
noted.
No, it's not.
Yep.
I'm on the aerial photograph. Is this your property
The
right here?
second.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to verify because I'm trying to figure out what else it would be. Is this your home right here?
Yeah, and then that's how it
And
sits.
that's, yeah, so he's
That is
just
this
showing a
house
blow up
here.
of that area. That is that residence at that corner.
Oh, I see. What
So
you're,
that's
yeah,
two on
but
there.
when he was referencing the map, he wasn't in the right spot.
Okay, all right, I just want to make sure that
Yes.
that's what that is referring to, that's 279 feet from your residence to the.
Okay, yeah, no,
Okay.
I was talking about when he was, referencing where the properties were when he was talking about the
Gotcha.
bottom of the map.
Okay, sorry about that. I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you
I was
very
thinking the
much.
same thing,
Okay.
yeah, that those were the residences
Okay.
shown on there, even though they're in south property line.
Yes.
Okay, anyone else have questions? Yeah, come on over here.
My name is Paul Hoban. I live on Wild Rose Lane in Marengo. I wanted to go back to the whole who's who in this project. So there's MP Solar Farm. There, who I thought was the owner was this Kachi, if that's right, Kachi is the owner. And then, if I understand correctly, you guys are with WCP, if that's the correct name. So in light of that, I guess I'm trying to understand why, if you're just a contractor, why the owner of the property isn't the one here trying to get a conditional use permit, and not a possible subcontractor of the permit. And then also, I guess I would want to understand how a suspended company is able to go through permitting processes and do projects like this if they're under suspension, and why we're even listening to that from a suspended contractor. And also how then, if you're suspended, you're doing another project in Marengo, when usually if you're suspended, you don't have the license to be able to do those contracts.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. So first speak to suspension. The suspension is suspension from a state program. It's not applicable to our license. Our license was never suspended or under any suspension whatsoever. Our business operation has continued and maintained since 2007. So we are not a suspended contractor. We have permitted several projects in respect to that. We're suspended from putting in new projects into the adjustment block program, which is for SREC purposes and SREC purposes only. So we are not a suspended contractor, just to make that clear. Is that clear? 6 of one, half a dozen the other. Our electrical license is what it is, and that we are a full-fledged contractor. We're not putting this project into our SREC program, so therefore that doesn't apply. Right? It only applies if we were submitting an application to the SREC for purchasing, for the selling of the SREC developed from the System Energy Springs.
Okay.
All right, so that's not a condition of concern. What was the other question?
I was asking why Kachi is not the individual or entity that's here that should be applying for the permit.
The typical process is the applicant, which we are the EPC, the applicant is the EPC for the project, right? The applicant seeks all the permitting, all the requirement for installation. That is the standard approach for development of the project whatsoever. It doesn't, the owner could be someone on island for all we care, right? We are the ones that are developing the project, so we apply for the permits. That's standard across the state. The EPC makes the application. If I do a project at your home, I come and sign a contract with you. I then take your information and then make an application to AHJ for the permit, because it is my license that is being used to apply for the permit, including the electrical licenses, civil licenses, the structural licenses that are necessary. It is the EPC that does the application for any solar project within the state. That is standard right across the state.
Okay, I guess I would just, as a follow-up to that, just for my own.
You can follow up in your comments if you want, or have
Yeah, but
somebody
I
else
didn't use
ask
my
a
3
question.
minutes.
Yeah, you did use your 3 minutes.
No, he was answering my questions. I wasn't asking questions at that point. He's been talking for the last several minutes.
Well, I said to you, you can use your first 3 minutes to ask all your questions, and then he can answer them. And I thought you were done, and then he started answering them. So you could pass those on to somebody else. But I'm going to ask him to just clarify, like, when you have an application, you know, and who comes before the board, and, you know, what our requirements are for the county.
Yeah, so typical with these types of projects, we do see, a lot of times it's in a lease so that, you know, we don't see the landowner. In this case, the landowner is the, going to be the operator. But typically, we do not see the landowners come to give testimony. It is usually an applicant, a contractor, a developer that's going to be giving testimony on their behalf. That's part of the agreement. So that is pretty
And
standard.
that's what I was trying to just sort of clarify based on his answer was that. Because I was under the understanding that if it's a difference between like a permit to do construction versus a permit to change it from an ag to a different use, seems that would be more of an owner situation, not a contractor looking for a permit to do work. That's why I wanted to clarify.
Okay. Anyone else? You have something?
We are not requesting a change from ag to any other thing.
Yeah, we know.
Based on the code, it's an ag.
Yeah, we know.
We know. Okay.
Hi, Dr. Jim Tennyson, 9010 Wild Rose Lane, Marengo, Illinois, representing the adjacent lot of 16.16.37608, which is a homeowners association. Therefore, I feel I'm representing 21 people, giving me, let me do the math, over an hour of talk time here.
Is this to the north?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's northeast.
Are you,
Northwest, I'm sorry,
are you
northwest
right
would be
on-
adjacent.
is your property adjacent to this parcel?
I'm representing the homeowners association was notified. Okay, being the president of the association.
Okay.
All right. First question, where is the resident going to be built over here? I notice on the property transfer, resident will be built because it's going to be a primary resident use. Existing drain tiles. Have you ordered a radar study? Ground radar study? I know there's drain tiles out there. I know the property west of there, I helped that farmer find some. So the square footage of the solar panels themselves is covering ground, preventing rainwater, snow from reaching the ground. Therefore, it all runs off, pools in a certain area. How is that being mitigated without causing erosion or washing the current chemicals that are pesticides, herbicides into the Coon Creek, because this is where all the runoff goes, which ends up in my backyard, especially when it floods. Now, the anticipated dB levels, will say, are 50 dB. I know, I hear I-90 where it runs about 65 dB over at my house, and it's intolerable. So hopefully I don't hear this. And per the Natural Resources Report, the office maps indicate a high probability of cultural and historical features of the parcel. Have you contacted the Historical Society to find out any more information? Endangered species, per your NRI report, what research has been done on that? On page, it got really confusing. On page 130, if you look on your big report there, it mentions another pin of 0233-312, which does not exist in county records. However, longitude, latitude marks bring it to a pin of 233-306, which is up in Harvard area.
That's their other project.
Are you incorporating this with your conditional permit with this request? That's all my questions.
That's
Thank
a
you.
separate property. You're here for this one, right?
I'm here for this one, but this
Okay.
is paperwork in 148 pages. And as far as the agricultural impact of solar farms in the county, not just this one, what are you doing about the loss of profitability for the farmers and their families and food on their table?
Okay, sir. So you can answer his questions.
Okay. Some of those I can answer, some I can't. Sorry, let me just first. There is no residence on this site. It was never designed to be a residence. It's a solar farm, and we have purchased the property to develop a solar farm. We have a temporary staging area for the deploying of our material, but that's the closest to a residence that we have. There is no residence on the site and never was designed.
Well, according to the transfer declaration that was filed with the county, it says that, will the property be the buyer's principal resident? Yes. Identify the property's current and intended
I'm
property
sorry, I
use.
don't think that's,
Resident.
you can show Kim that, but I don't
Sounds like
think
that's
that's
a
for
recorded
this
deed.
petition. That doesn't make
Hold on,
sense.
county website.
Is that a recorder document from the recorder's office? It sounds like it's just a transfer.
Yeah, it's a transfer.
Yeah, I can't speak to that. That was something that was recorded with the recorder of deeds office that, but that is not the intent of the
Something
applicant.
to keep in mind.
Regarding the drain tile, we have referred to that already. We will be doing a drain tile study.
Is that not required by the state in the AMA agreement that you have to do a drain tile survey?
No, it's not required. We will do a drain tile study for completeness because we want to make sure that we are not disturbing the drain tiles that are there. And if they are discovered, then we have to mitigate any damages or make sure we don't damage anything regarding that. 50 dB is less than a weed whacker. So I don't expect that to be an issue, and that only occurs at the startup. During the normal running, it's usually 25, 30 dB. So it's not significant in any way whatsoever. We intend to do, which is part of the building permit, which will come secondary from this, we will do a historical study, a historical society study for the site to make sure there any artifacts that's there, we know how to mitigate that, and we have a plan for that. If we do what's it called again? The Society of Historical, whatever it's called. Once we do that study, we will know how to treat any historical findings that we find, whether it's arrowheads or burial grounds or whatever it is. We will know how to mitigate that when we do that historical study. And we did do an EcoCat, and there were no endangered species on this side, which was surprising when we did EcoCat. On the Marengo side, there was the Blandin turtles and whatever, but on this side, there was no reference to any endangered species on this side.
Okay, does anyone else have questions? Yes, come on up.
Hi, Yvonne Daniels, 9305 Riley Road, Marengo. Who provides any required bonds? And if there's the decommissioning bonds, are they safe from any financial liabilities or bankruptcy proceedings if that were to happen in the amount of time that this site is present?
Okay.
It's a good question. The bond, as we have had to do, right now we're looking at 2 bonds in this case, as against 1 bond that we did for the Marengo project. In the Marengo project, we did a decommissioning bond, which is secured by either a letter of credit or whatever, bank loan or whatever it is. The owner of the property provides that bond. Now we are required to do both a decommissioning bond and a construction bond to Riley Township that we will provide accordingly. And the owner of the property, as standard within the state, the owner of the property provides the bond to the payee if there's a question. And the bond is secured. It's not, it protects against bankruptcies or whatever else because it's a secured financial instrument.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then we'll move on to the staff report. And Kim, in your staff report, if, any of the things that have been addressed, like the bond, if you could just cover those as well too, just to educate people a little bit.
All right, I did want to just pause on this aerial as well because I know a question came up about the aided wetlands. The site plan by the applicant did show the NRCS wetlands, and I just wanted to point out that this yellow hatched area along the north side of the property is the aided wetlands, and they followed the exact same line as the NRCS, so just for record. So the subject property is zoned A1. The current land use of the subject property is agricultural. Surrounding land uses are all agricultural, with the exception of single-family residential to the south. The future land use designation for the property is agricultural and environmentally sensitive area. We did discuss the gas pipeline there, and the applicant is correct. If the pipeline does want to come through and either obtain additional easement or relocate the pipeline that's there, they will need to work around that, and it could potentially impact the design if that's the case. I don't think I had anything further on that. The zoning sign was posted appropriately. The land is relatively flat, but obviously we know about the flooding concerns out there. The stormwater management ordinance will need to be met, so during the application for the building permit, our Water Resources Division will do a full review, including the drain tiles. Any clay tiles that are found will have to be replaced. Any damaged tiles obviously will need to be repaired or replaced. What else did you want me to touch on?
The bond.
The bond. So at the time of building permit application, the applicant will need to provide us with an engineer's estimate of the decommissioning costs, and then provide us with a bond that is held by the county in our office for 100% of the estimated decommissioning cost. And every 10 years that is reevaluated, so takes into consideration inflation, anything like that, that might revise those costs. And every 10 years they'll have to provide us a new bond for the life of the project. So in any event that they were to go bankrupt or abandon the project, the county would be able to utilize that bond to decommission the site.
And do you believe the state standards?
Yes, thank you. I do believe that all of the state and county requirements have been met.
Cabling, the way they want to do that, should change this up. The way the cabling is done, which is different from the way that.
Go ahead, yes.
Yeah. Their proposed method of cabling, suspending it above ground, does the county have any position on that?
Not specifically. We have seen that done at other project sites. I've been out at some of the sites that have it, and it seems to work well.
So the county would regard that as a non-issue?
Correct. As long as it's elevated where it needs to be.
Yes,
Yes.
as long as it's high enough.
And maybe for educational purposes for the audience as well, you can fill them in on our ability to deny or approve.
Yes, why don't I just go ahead and read that paragraph here. So per the State Public Act 102-1123, a request for a conditional use permit for a commercial solar energy facility shall be approved if the request is in compliance with the standards and conditions imposed within the act, the zoning ordinance adopted consistent with this code, and the conditions imposed under state and federal statutes and regulations. A county may not adopt zoning regulations that disallow commercial solar energy facilities from being developed or operated in any district zoned to allow agricultural or industrial uses.
And you believe this is meeting those?
I do believe it does.
Okay, so at this time, anyone from the public can make a statement regarding this if you'd like to. Again, you'd have to come up, introduce yourself, give your address, and then you can make a statement. Does anyone from the public want to make a statement? Okay, please.
My name is Deborah Boland, and I just wanted to read the
And your
letter.
address, please.
23611 Anthony Road. So I wanted to read the letter that I sent the board. I'm hoping it was passed on. I've lived at this address for 40 years, so I know the land extremely well. I submitted the letter to the board along with photos, which I printed out for your records, which show the clear flooding on the property in sight. I do want to say that I am not against solar energy, but this particular site is simply the wrong place for a solar farm. The National Resources Inventory, prepared by McHenry Lake County Soil and Water Conservation District, and the application backs that up. First, this property floods annually. I've submitted and brought photos showing and depicting the varying degrees of flooding, from frequent ponding to the entire field being submerged. These are not one-time events. This happens year after year. The water often stays for days because the ground cannot absorb it. Over the decades, my family has taken to calling it Lake Anthony. You don't have to take my word for it. This is documented in the county's NRI, which confirms 1, over 10 acres are in a FEMA 100-year flood plan. 2, over 12 acres have flooded in the past. And almost the entire site has frequent ponding, meaning it regularly holds standing water after storms. Second, the county also determined that 98.6% of this land is rated very limited for solar construction. Very limited means the ground is too wet, too soft, and too unstable to hold solar panels and electrical equipment safely. The soil has a high water table, poor drainage, and is prone to frost action, all unsuitable conditions for the kind of posts and equipment required for a solar farm. Again, this is not coming from me. This comes directly from the Soil and Water Conservation District. Third, the report shows the property contains hydric soils and wetland areas. Hydric soils are the kind that stay saturated for long periods of time. The NRI identified a mapped wetland along with widespread wet soils across the site. What concerns me more is the Soil and Water Conservation District states that they were not provided a site plan during their review. This means they could not confirm whether the proposed solar layout overlaps wetlands, floodplain, or possible grassed waterway. It is clear from the site plan that the entire parcel is intended to be paneled. This is a major gap in the environmental review, which is highly concerning when the site is already so overwhelmed with water. Finally, this land acts as a flood basin. It collects and holds water. If this solar project adds roads, equipment, pads, heavy machinery, and thousands of posts into the ground that is already saturated, that water will have nowhere to go, will have to go somewhere. And I am deeply worried it will end up on our neighboring properties, including mine. I've lived through decades of watching how this property.
You can give that to somebody else if you'd like.
Okay. Do you want these photos for the record?
Are those the same ones that were emailed?
Yeah.
We have them in there,
In
right?
full color, better picture. And I hope you noticed the eagle in the one.
Okay, does anyone else have a comment?
Just, you can read the last paragraph that I didn't finish.
Again, my name is Paul Hoban. I live at 9004 Wild Rose Lane in Marengo. Did you want the finally or the for the?
Yeah, pretty much anywhere in there is where
Okay,
it
so
stops.
to continue hers, finally, this land acts as a flood basin. It collects and holds water. If this solar project adds roads, equipment pads, heavy machinery, and thousands of posts into ground that is already saturated, that water will have to go somewhere. And I am deeply worried it will end up on our neighboring properties, including mine. I've lived through decades of watching how this property handles water. The flooding is not occasional. It is not minor. It overtops the roadway as it is, and the county's own documents confirm that. For all these reasons, the flooding, the soil limitations, the wetlands, and the incomplete environmental review, I respectfully ask you to deny the conditional use permit for this location. Thank you. I would add to that. So I live on the north side of Coon Creek, where this property is. My backyard backs up to Coon Creek. It floods. We've seen it, almost our entire backyard floods. I find it disturbing that we could be looking at this area of Coon Creek by itself. Just that alone, in that waterway, The fact as was just stated that the, environmental review was sort of skipped over, not fully provided, that you're dealing with a water system. And we can all sit here and talk about like, oh, it's okay, it doesn't do this, or it doesn't leach, or it doesn't do that. But we've seen over and over and over again with these types of projects where 30, 20, 15, 10 years later, people are sick, they find out that there's contamination in the water, they find out all the other things that go wrong with these types of projects. And the fact that this property sits within the Coon Creek Basin would drastically affect that. I was actually going to mention about the eagles. We have a bald eagle that comes in and perches in our tree in our backyard in Coon Creek. Bald eagles, I should refer that, bald eagles, the national bird, have returned to the area. It has been shown and proven that these solar panel farms will cause harm, will kill birds, just like the windmills will. And the fact that we are now jeopardizing that, the national bird, bald eagles, along with all the rest of the wildlife in our area. You had many projects where you showed they were rooftops, and I've never understood why we always have to go after food and farmland and can't just build on those building rooftops, as you showed you were able to do.
Your time is up. Anyone else like to, yes?
Again, Yvonne Daniels, 9305 Riley Road. I just have one thing to say. The McHenry County UDO specifically states the facility shall be situated as to minimize impacts to woodland savannas, wetlands, drainage tiles, and encroachment into floodplains. The NRCS report states 10.42 acres, over a third of the parcels within Zone A, 2.36 acres is within wetlands, flooding on 96.5% of the parcel, frequent ponding on 96.5% of the parcel, and the 98.6% of the parcel has very limited soils. And I understand what you're saying about the soils and how far down you go. I don't even live in this bend of Coon Creek. I live in a further bend of Coon Creek. We plant trees in our backyard. In order to plant a tree, we dug the hole, it filled with water. That's how high the water table is in this area. So when you start putting pylons like that down into there, that's exactly what's going to happen, fill up. And where is that water gonna go? Like they said, Coon Creek floods. I've had the back 3 acres of my property, and I have 9 that are underwater several times a year. We're coming up on that time of year. And it does come to the road, Anthony Road. So for many reasons, those specifically, I don't believe this is a spot for it. And I get what you say the state has said. I'm not even gonna get into that, but I don't think this is a good spot for this.
Is there anyone else? Yes.
Hello, I'm Dominic Padlow. I live at 2440 Anthony Road. I pass through that land every day, and I bought the property 5 years ago, and I confirm last 5 years. I even see a sign. There is a sign installed by the county that the road floods, and I experienced it once, and coming back from work to my house. So, and that water was above the road. So I literally had to through a pond, and from the surveys, I can say that it's way above the land that actually you want to build those solar panels. So definitely this is not, good area for that. Also, the highway has a runoff to the field around the residencies, and the field also runs off everything back to the Coon Creek. And I've seen the bridge almost being flooded through entirely. So yeah, that's a big thing that actually, could cause like a lot of problems, especially when there's water and inverters flood, they catch fire. Who's gonna, extinguish that? I mean, it's in the water, but still, it's dangerous to be around that thing with the water around it.
Anyone else? Do you have a closing statement?
Yes, we do. We are desirous to provide this system for a number of reasons, among them being the provision of jobs, the provision of renewable energy for the use within the community, as it were. And we are confident that we will make sure that we maintain and abide by all the ordinances that have been stated, implied or otherwise, by the county for the application of this system. We will endeavor to make sure that if there are any drain tiles discovered on the site, we protect and, if damaged, mitigate those damages and subsequently cover all costs associated with that. We will be bonded for the project, as it were, for decommissioning, and we definitely request, therefore, that, for it being said, that this be granted to us for the operation of this solar farm.
Okay, so at this time, we will close the hearing portion of this meeting and we'll move on to the voting portion. Again, the application Z250088, the request is for a conditional use permit to allow for a commercial solar energy facility. And the property consists of about 30 acres located on the north side of Anthony Road, approximately 1/2 mile east of Interstate 90 in Riley Township, and the applicant is Anthony Solar Farm LLC. In your packet and on the website are the proposed conditions. If there's no objection, I won't read through those since we've all members of the board have had access to them. Hearing no objection, I'll read through them. Are there any proposed changes or additions to these proposed conditions?
Madam Chairman, I move acceptance of the conditions as presented.
I'll second. Donner. Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Eldridge to accept these conditions. And seconded by Ms. Donner. Discussion. Any discussion on the conditions?
I have none.
Anyone else? Okay, then I will call for the vote on the conditions. Mr. Eldridge.
Yes.
Ms. Gartner.
Yes.
Mr. Cozen.
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel.
Yes.
Ms. Donner.
Aye.
Mr. Dahlman.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. So the conditions are approved 7-0. This time I would entertain a motion for approval of this conditional use request.
Madam Chairman, I move acceptance of the petition subject to the conditions.
Donner seconds.
Been moved by Mr. Eldridge, seconded by Ms. Donner to approve this request. Discussion? Mr. Eldridge?
Yes, this is a roughly 30-acre parcel in Riley Township on the north side of Anthony Road, not far from Highway I-90. It is a vacant parcel surrounded by farmland. It has been farmland for most of the time since settlement. Testimony has been provided that it's pretty darn wet, and in fact, much of Riley Township in that area are hydric soils that are quite wet. It was not particularly addressed here except in passing, but the testimony we have received over the last several years on from a variety of sources, not just petitioners, but also experts, are that the net water handling of a solar farm, which has the wildflower mix planted under it, improves rather than gets worse as if it is moved from crop farmland to a wildflowers underneath solar farms. So while I respect the concerns of the objectors with this, I do not agree with it. I think that at very worst it will be neutral in that regard. And all of this to some extent is moot because Public Act 102-1123 and 103-0580 requires us to vote in favor of a petition if it has met the state standards, and staff has testified that it has met the state standards, and my examination of this petition agrees with that. So having found that it meets the state standards, I am required by law to vote in favor. I think that this is probably not the best possible location, but I don't think it's anywhere near the worst either. So I am fairly comfortable. There have been petitions where I was very uncomfortable following the law, but I still believe that it is my obligation to do so. In this case, I'm not super happy with it, but I'm not terribly uncomfortable either. So I support the petition.
Ms. Gardner.
I agree with Mr. Eldridge. It's not the best site we've ever seen, but it's not the worst. And by state law, it's going to happen if all of your ducks can get in a row. And that's a big if at this point. These don't always go through. I just wanted to touch a little bit on the concern for the farmers. It is the farmers who lease or sell these properties for solar farms. And part of the reason they do that is because they can't get the profitability out of the farming industry that they've known all along. And so this is a more lucrative solution for many of them that actually allow them to go on. And in the same breath, it also preserves the farmland for later use, be it 25, 30 years up the road, whatever. So in that respect, I have to say I agree. I have to be in favor here.
Mr. Cozen.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I recognize the submission of the documents as presented, the compliance that they purport to fulfill those requirements. But in lieu of my support of this, I need to note two elements, and it may be because of how the information is now so readily available, which is on one hand a good thing, but on another there's that phrase of a data dump. Specifically, I wish that Hay and Associates were present to give the explanation to their September 12th, 2024 report, along with the explanation of the 1970 Coon Creek flooding that was recognized in an aerial photo by USGS published 2 years later, and now leaves a concern for all of us. But I have enough confidence in the process and procedures of the county and its staff to address that. The second document that is also tangentially referenced to us was the Federal Energy Commission's approval of the ANR pipeline on January 22nd, 2026, despite the objection filed by McHenry County Conservation District in this particular area. Nonetheless, that is beyond the scope, as I recognize and have been admonished, for the petition before us. And so with the information and authority that we've been given, this is the petition that I will be supporting.
Mr. Schnabel.
Illinois has also, as I understand it, recently approved battery electric storage systems, which can be built within 150 feet of a house. Be glad this is not that. That I could never vote for. And I just want to add, everything you people said is absolutely true. I've got the Eagles at my place. I've got Coon Creek very near my yard. I've got the high water table. We've got the roads that flood over. It's my opinion that in the future, Coon Creek flooding will only get worse because it generally originates in the Hampshire area. I understand the Hampshire sewage system enters that after treatment. And Hampshire, unlike Marengo, is developing fairly rapidly with new subdivisions and apartments and the like. And that will no doubt more than likely increase runoff. Coon Creek is channelized through DeKalb County and Kane County. And McHenry County does not have laws in place that allow Coon Creek to be channelized through Riley Township. Hence, its nature of sprawling around all over the place and so on and so forth. So my advice to the contractor would be, if you think you need it 2 feet off the ground, you better put it 4 feet off the ground, would just be my advice. And everything else everyone said here is true. I think everyone was good, more or less, not happy, but good spirited about listening to what everyone here had to say. I appreciate that. And I will, as a result of what's required, very reluctantly vote to support the petition.
Ms. Donner?
Thank you, Ms. Chairman. Understanding that this is the start of a process, that we considered that all the information that was needed was appropriate and we should go ahead. The state has told us we have to go ahead, but understand also that so many things are going to be coming up that they will have to go through that require a deeper dive now. Our stormwater ordinance, for instance, they have to be able to work with that as well. They have any other group that is part of this process now can do the deep dive on what it is they have to do to be able to make it work. The other thing is that when you talk about water, I live next door. When we built our house, when the house was built in my subdivision, all I had to do was dig down that far and I had this much water. So when you talk about a high water table, I can see it and know it. There's 125 homes on top of that and what we're doing. So I get it on that kind of a thing. But again, we are the beginning of this process and we are under strict rules from our end, and I will be voting for approval.
Mr. Dahlman?
Thank you. I have issues with the flooding going on there annually. No firm agreement with ComEd. And I know we're bound by state law to approve this because it's been presented correctly and in great detail. My conscience will not let me vote yes on this. I will vote no.
Okay. And I believe that standards in our ordinance under 1656030, the principal use standards, have been met, as well as the requirements under Illinois Public Act 1021123 and Public Act 1030580 have been met. I believe that, first of all, to address the ComEd thing, I mean, this will not happen until they have a ComEd agreement, but we've had a lot of solar farms that have come through here and are still working on their ComEd agreement. That's just one other thing that they have to do before they will get a building permit. So that has nothing to do with really our approval of this and our standards that we need to address for land use. But as far as wetlands and that sort of thing, the wetlands are being, they are outside the wetland areas. They are avoiding that. And this area does flood. These panels are above the flood area. And so I believe those standards have been met, and so I believe I'm obligated to support this. So I will be voting in favor of the request. So I'll call for the vote. Mr. Eldridge?
Yes.
Ms. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Cozen?
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel?
Yes.
Ms. Donner?
Aye.
Mr. Dahlman?
No.
And I will vote yes. So this will go to the county board with a 6-1 vote approving the request. So at this time, the hearing is closed.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
I think we see you next week. Maybe we're all up next week.
No, I got told that
The law
Jess was coming.
No, she's not.
Well, I was told earlier she would.
All right,
I have very little doubt.
wherever you were told. Yeah, we do have one next. Yeah. No, that's one that you started on.
I know that.
Yeah, right. I don't know.